NOS4A22, Chapter 8, Fran in France, 1200 AD. Notes: in the year of 1200, the newly formed Order of the Leech returned yet another way to the land of France and saved a woman from near gang rape by a pack of barbarians. Her name is Fran. Fran was the humble servant maid of a caretaker woman at a popular place for lodging of frequent travelers in France through the old country. She couldn't have been a better helper to everyone that she would come into contact with. Her care in all that she did came through with exquisite detail for everything she had an eye for, which is literally everything she sees. Here is the secret to her story. Fran found her knife and all what it meant to be a strong creative early on. This was the special quality that caught the attention of the Order of the Leech, with the vampiric hold on Abbas that Aram the Leech made over such an elaborate, planned-out overtaking. Abbas was about to be shown his future Leech partner, not just in a way that is one-time randomness. This was carefully planned out and orchestrated so that there would not be any sort of collateral damage to the mission at hand concerning the end goal of the Leech and his ultimate order. At this time, Abbas would meet Fran, and they would begin to unravel the true intentions, along with all the warped revenge that comes with it, on all sides of the newly divided order. The hypocrisy of the Order of the Leech began to be established firmly during this time of the 1200s. The Leech grabbed Abbas's skull in his palm as his large, long fingers wrapped around the deep corners of his long beard. And Aram the Leech said, "Come, my son, and see your future." And Abbas told him, "Am I to be your son, to have this meeting arranged, my lovely father?" And Aram the Leech said, "Yes, the time has arrived. We are at the gates beyond the door of your destiny. Herein lies the visions and true path of your future. You are the future of the Order of the Leech." And Abbas told him, "I know this, father, as not only do you tell me daily, I am also visited with visions." And Aram the Leech said, "How so, my son? Speak." And Abbas told him, "I came to a place that was different from the times of your guidance in your energy presence. At first, I thought you were guiding me. Then the feeling went away as the great voice told me to trust my own powers, and it became quite peculiar. In that moment, suddenly I had grown intellectually beyond measure. My lovely father, am I to believe that the spirit of the great voice spoke to me this time yet again? If this is so, then surely you are current, and this is my sign to fully embrace and adopt your mantle." Aram the Leech told him, "Abbas, my son, I knew you had the knowledge, and so you would tell me these words, because yes, this is true. There is all you ever needed to know beyond the gates. I permit you to enter, and I will follow. Now save your partner, in which everything in your life has culminated." Abbas said, "Let it be so, O lovely father. I am ready. But why do you say my name in this way? How can you know that I have made this change? I kept it from you this day. Please forgive me for asking. I do not question your authority or power, my lovely father." Aram the Leech told him, "There you have it. You know all you need to know now, as you possess all the power and more than I, your beloved father, has bestowed upon you. Now there is nothing more to do, other than lead the way to your true path and I will follow to establish and seal your fate through this ordination." And the leech said, "You have already lived in your manifested dreams of those moments, and this is why you feel so strange, my son. Always remember what I tell you concerning this matter, and you will not fail." Abbas said, "I feel it, my father. It is truly true. It truly is true. I manifested these visions because I remember them already. Now I must reap the rewards." That day, the rest of Aram's redeeming qualities and essence of his thrown-away soul had died and was buried under the deadness that he had made around him. The leech said, "Well done, my son. Now you must take what is yours." Abbas told him, "I will, father, now." And the fooled son did his father's bidding. Abbas was now fully operational, and the manipulation was in full effect. Abbas indeed was there, as he had to be in order for the vampiric hold to work properly. Abbas now operates as the host. People are lost in the very real possibility of possession. If they only knew that it wasn't the demons and evil spirits we need to worry about necessarily. The people who are able to harness the evil energy that drives the evil spirits and demons are much more dangerous than them on their own. If only Vic knew to tell someone. Unfortunately, she is mostly in a place she cannot tell her son about. She knows as an apparition that it could destroy him and any sense of comfort, because she knows, fully understanding the fact. The truth about not just Vic, Wayne's mom, but the fate of all the tarnished souls who were drained from Charlie, had gone to the purgatory pit, where hell directly was next door neighbors. Her soul and her ghost were merely in another department. Stories change not because they aren't true, but because they were told incorrectly. What we have here on display is a detailed account that is shared through rarely experienced perspectives coming from the actual living sources, passed down from the Order of the Leech's own personal archived records. This would easily be classified as the highest known level of ancient vampiric records, AD, after death, ever kept this far back in history. These ancient documents are held in other hands now, other than the Order of the Leech. You can only guess where. Abbas went running into the gates beyond the door that the Leech opened for him. He ran past the entrance without even budging to look to either side. His knife physically was a well-hidden secret, so no one could take that from him. This was the wisest decision any strong creative has ever made, and no one can rival this man, not even his fake father, the Leech. We can safely refer to Aram the Leech as the anti-father. If ever there were one, this is the only example anyone would need for the exact definition. Aram is absolutely gone. You can even explain this on a vividly descriptive scape. For example, take for good reference the ways of Aram and the way he lived. This does not coincide at all with the new existence he had found. Life doesn't even partake in his existence, and so the word life cannot be used to describe the absence of the life he left when he himself ultimately killed Aram. The Leech killed Aram. He killed himself instead of choosing the noble death of a martyr who was to be killed for being a good man. He left that. He left the good path on his way out to achieve the ultimate rank amongst the evil spirits who roam the earth as long since there ever were deceased demons. Secretively, unknowingly, Aram learned of this important information that had been lost with the dying old man, who was there with Aram on the land of corrupt tenants. The man never even gave his name, he only said to listen to his words, that they may redeem such a man as himself, whose dice had always been rolled most unfairly, and who always had the worst hand dealt. When Aram had his chance in his final moments, it was then when he seized the opportunity. In his mind, through the vampiric transfer, there was an illusory occurrence, although in his recollective memories, he does actually have the clear memories of being taken off the cross. He was not taken by anyone but himself, and although it really is from his own mind and of his own making, there is no shortage of realistic memories that blocked out the truth of his suicide. He erased guilt of the suicide because he was convinced that he would die anyway, so there couldn't possibly be any remorse in his mind. Aram made himself, in his mind, extremely dangerous, because in that vampiric blackened mind of his, he saw himself as the guiltless one, and this had become another name, as the leech possesses the name of many names. Even this, over the 2 millennia, had become another name for the leech. The guiltless one is a name that implies much. With such a name, there tends to be an assumed level of intensity, along with what most perceive to be some sort of raging emotions. The guiltless one tends to be a really bad moniker nickname for anyone, especially for someone who has cheated death over many what would be counted as average lifespans, adding up to hundreds of years. Although, in other words, this mentality is that of a dangerously powerful evil genius who needs to be stopped. This is what must be done before any more innocent lives of children and families are destroyed. The origin story of Aram the Leech, the Guiltless One, is all the introduction to the most twistedly evil vampiric strong creative that anyone needs to get the gist of, and the true hidden intentions of the original vampires from the New Age. Vampires of the Old Age were wandering evil spirits, tales before death, otherwise widely known as the abbreviation BC, told a much different story than the New Age of vampirism, which it's dangerously real fear that kills. Tales before death consists of the legendary stories of old that speak of the most terrifying demonic possession takeovers. These were not the type of attacks that the NOS4A22 inflicted, although there is a cerebral aspect to both kinds of vampiric attacks. The line stops there. These two kinds of attacks were completely biometrically different. The old ones were recklessly murdering every beast, woman, and man. So what we have here is the first vampiric family of the New Age. The leech had started off the family with a proverbial bang, straight through the heart of the old ways, like a stake through the heart. The old ways were failing in the court of Satan, so the manifestation of hell into the flesh had to be found and proven. This was the explanation. No matter how much Aram the Leech would have loved making brutal physical attacks to adults, he found a much more effective way to hurt more and cause widespread damage. Causing turmoil and inflicting pain is the only plan for Aram. Forgive the lack of description as to the order of the Leech's physical features. These are people who became something else. One cannot ever get a view if the one you are trying to see is always in the darkness of shadow, and when caught in the light is splotched in freshly bled nectar if you happen to see their face, because These children of the Order of the Leech are the orchestrators of the blood-sucking legion, who feast of the flesh and marrow of whoever they see fit to feed upon. Like nectar of the finer fruits, this replenishes in a certain way through the syncopsis of interaction, rhythmically. The leech functions just as any species of bloodsucker. Selfishly searching for human blood is always goal number one. For some reason, humans are top of the food chain. This keeps them at the top of even the smallest of insects, who recognize this most sweetest of sweet lifeblood. The Order of the Leech recognizes this. They are the new leaders who replace the failed ones of old, those who remain wandering evil spirits of old demons. As there had to be saviors in the world, there had to be destroyers. Everything is ordained and must be so for this beautifully tragic story that is life. So with Aram, he is an offspring who has been born into suffering and has also been chosen for that manipulation of fate to become something he otherwise would know nothing about. His legacy was trampled like a baby calf who was birthed amidst a stampede. The ruckus of that inevitable animalistic urge to feed had driven life since the beginning, for all life to consume as much of everything they could. What they could not consume, the hunger to accumulate and acquire, drove them to take and take and take. Now they own the motherfucking world. The old ways are done, and so the new age is here. One last attempt, AD, to destroy as much goodness as they possibly can. As this new age of vampirism has changed and evolved, there is one more scary truth to be told. There is no all-of-a-sudden emergence coming out of nowhere concerning this changing of the destroyers. This is the truth that is harder to find. The ones that established the new age are not accessible to humanity, or even the leeches. They're on a higher level, or lower I should say, lowest of the low, while wandering everywhere. To further elaborate, and so it can be clearly understood, these are some things one must know. There are children of the night who feast upon the blood of the innocent, and can never be fed enough flesh of the ones that are fed. Old Charlie Manx used to be that conduit. He had bridged a gap that is quite interesting. I would be so daring as to say peculiar, if you know what I mean. In Charlie's life, he was recognized by the mysterious unseen forces behind the blackened darkness of oblivion. Charlie was the crossover happening between the vampires of old and the Order of the Leech, who had developed their new ways of telepathic psychic vampirism to be used in such a way that the new NOS4A22 was created. Although Aram the Leech had begun the thing, Charlie was the one who, after the order was established and all was complete for the changing of the times, he in all truth was the prototype from the outside of everything that was just like Aram in his life, only living during modern times, of course. Now that this is firmly established and we can really see all the truth, here is the last bit we can give you here in our records of information. The Order of the Leech is the new age and the new order of the unnameable cosmic evil force beyond human understanding, which does not possess energy. They are the source of evil. Remember this: the evil will never truly win. It may seem so, but they are here for a purpose, to bow to goodness that prevails. They, the evil ones, are to ultimately serve good in the end. So, all that seems evil and bad will be abolished to turn heavenly. This is the truth that the capital L liars do not want you to know just yet. The lowest of the low, who will forever stay in the shadows, too afraid to show their hideous faces covered in self-deprecated shame of their hate and all that it has caused unjustly, these will forever remain in the chains of the darkened pit because they have been there all along, since the beginning of any of this. They only call the shots from the inside within their hellish burning prison, infecting all those around with their endless cries brought upon by their own most despicable decisions. Imagine being chosen to be the best of all creation among a select few gods before there was humanity. Now imagine being given all you could ever have to live a life in paradise forever, with things far better than what the flesh can experience. Even with this, the jealousy became too much. This is the most fascinating thing. Being given all the greatest things away from pain, suffering, or even time itself, jealousy became the most powerful spirit force in all life throughout the cosmos. So, there were decisions made to take risks they knew would mean the end for them. But they had to know the small pleasures of men. What happened? Well, what happens when something evil is not satisfied? Instead of abstaining or fighting the urges to rape or seduce, they did what they knew would be raping God Himself by raping His image of woman. For they were made in their image. This is where true understanding of all evil comes from. This is the wellspring, and now they just reap what they had sown in the garden. They corrupt the good land with the poison of who they are as newly metamorphosed devils, because they were never to be there in the first place. Those who know this knowledge are most blessed. Charlie Manx, the name that just kept on coming up. This man showed the leech firsthand how the New Age vampires should be operating, because he had his own privatized mission, completely selfish and self-serving, with not even his own wife and daughter in mind, other than to possess them and keep them in a doll-like state that wasn't very cute like a doll is supposed to be. Dolls aren't supposed to sprout fangs for every tooth eating humans. Remember, risks are good to take, like climbing a mountain. If you are doing something you know for certain goes against what is good, this is worse than a risk. This is a calculated risk that knows it will fail. If it goes against what is good, that ultimately always wins, and is a slap in the face of all the good people who have died for nothing but good, loving kindness. This makes it not even a risk at all. It is accepting failure, yet not. Aram did this after following the ways of the old ones who were more powerful for a time, until they were eradicated to near extinction from actual biblical-sized plagues, and it has resonated throughout every age's history, religion, folklore, and most precious, the word-of-mouth accounts passed down from family to family. Instead of the endless cycle of madness that was the obvious choice for so long, there had to be this changing of the guard for the disciples of evil. This story has too many accounts to be told, so we have a great task of deciphering research of accountability and pre-source material that pushes us back and back. Therefore, there cannot be a complete record of these accounts in their entirety here, because this would be endless, virtually speaking. Reads a note from the place of unknown origin containing the piles of NOS4A22 files within, and it looked like whatever agency had previously owned these thousands of pages had thrown them on the sidewalk, as if they had tossed them in about decision to give them up. The first one that Charlie saw blown out all over the sidewalk was that stopped. The first one that Charlie saw blown out all over the sidewalk was one that stopped because the little water left in a mostly dry gutter stopped it, like the finger of God pressed down on it. We all know who really did this for him in the beginning. Well, maybe not exactly or precisely who, but what. That page read all he ever needed to know, as follows. Fran in France. Account from 1200 AD. Gathered artifacts. Source unknown. Material clarified to be pinpointed regional by triangulation. Regional pinpointing path accrued. Monitored suspects found. Notes. I found the thing stabbed in me. I can't do this anymore. These people are real. They exist. I have been visited and wanted no more of this. If I continue to pursue the assailants, I will no longer have days to live, because they didn't just tell me, they showed me what they can do. No more can be discussed safely as I resign here this day. Charlie picked up the piece of paper from the gutter and stood reading after a realization of his unworthiness to himself when he was young. Soon after, he secretly joined the occult. He never told a soul. All his knowledge was acquired by his own studies, and so this impressed the old leech who was around. Charlie was taught and didn't even know it. You can probably guess why now. The ways of confusion were quite sick. Charlie was just another failed experiment for Aram. The problem with that is he was the prototype of what the Order was going to do. The Order of the Leech had spent the good part of 2 millennia working on their true agenda. And with the split, which caused war for centuries, well, it hadn't exactly grown down back then. Thankfully for everyone, Charlie helped calm the raging waters between Aram and Urs unknowingly. The world of the Order of the Leech was mostly kept from Charlie because Aram had a hold on him the whole time. Funny thing about leeches, you could be in the swamp and never even know they just sucked the shit out of you. Well, if you're a shitty person, because you know damn well all they're sucking is blood.